Start off by saying I am on Interstate 94 in, I guess I'm in Indiana, going to be going into Michigan. Eastbound heading towards Detroit for a drop I'm going to be doing here in the middle of the night. Oh, I don't even have one. Aha, for my one person. We are before, I think, capital T, I think we're still in Indiana. I am heading towards Toledo. Going to be dropping some paperwork off and doing some laundry in the headquarters. Then I'm heading on to a drop here in the middle of the night at a Ford plant just west of Cleveland. There's another Sprinter van doing what I'm doing. Try this here. Sorry. Trying to clean things up a little bit. There we go. That's better. Uh, I was saying, I've said this a couple of times, that when you go do a pickup with a couple places that are very particular about your pickups, you can go early, and 99 times out of 100, they'll give it to you early. You can go, well, today was not the 9, was the one. Today was the one. I got up there at 9 o'clock this morning, and not only was whatever these car parts are not ready to go, they didn't even have the parts to put the parts together. He goes, we don't even have the raw materials. I was like, oh, great. So I spent the better part of the day hanging around in this cute little town up north of Milwaukee, walking around, watching the trains, kind of enjoying the area. And ultimately, I'm carrying 1/3 of what I was supposed to have. They were supposed to give me 360 somethings, whatever this product is, but they can only make 120 of them. And I got out of there a little late, so now I'm had to fight my way through Chicago, and there's another Sprinter van. See, that's another Expediter right there. These white vans are everywhere. You just don't notice them because they're invisible. Anyway, this is going to be a night drive. I got 183 miles to go on this road before I turn south to go to Toledo, drop, do laundry, and then head in along the coast. But the other day, I like to, it's just history. I like to talk about history a lot. You learn little bits of things here and there, and you talk to different people. You kind of pick up a photograph, a real picture of what's going on, and just kind of comparing notes. And it's just stuff that my brain spins, and I like to talk about it. I did a video a few days ago about German POWs here in the United States and how it affected them, and how the post-war period of a lot of the leaders in Germany post-war were POWs and got to see a capitalist democratic society up close. And I was reading about some of these guys that you can't, as a POW legally, you can make them work. You just can't make them do something dangerous, and you can't give them war work, as they say. You can't make them build ammunition or do something that's war related. Well, during wartime, civilian production of certain products are curtailed noticeably, including machinery and cars and stuff. And there were a lot of tractors that had these little 4-cylinder engines in them. And oh, this is a cool looking split road. And they trained a whole bunch of German POWs to overhaul engines. So when they got home, they had that job skill, which they were able to apply when they got home. Now, whoa, what's this guy doing? Whoa, 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 whoa. You just going to jump out there, big fella? Yep, you're just going to jump out there. Hold on, flashers, flashers, flashers. So I don't get run over. Dude, that was not well thought out. Yeah, that was not well thought out. Anyway, you got to remember the 1930s was very tumultuous in Europe. Their politics there were pretty rough. But the Germans came to power using the time-honored tactic of tell people what they want to hear. One of which was, "You're victims. You got cheated out of World War One," and they're like, "Yeah." Then there's a lot of talk about the master race, but that word means something different over there than it means here. When they say master race, what they really meant was master culture. The Germans convinced themselves that they were the superior culture. But this is at a time before mass media, a time before the internet, a time before television, what limited radio stations and radio receivers that people had. The whole radio network was controlled by their government. So was their newspaper. So what they're doing is being fed the same story over and over and over again. And after a while, you start believing it. If you've got nothing else to compare it to. I am getting something that's making my tires yell at me. Okay, there we go. So what happened over there is when the Germans started getting amped up to go fight, what they first did was take back all the real estate through hook and crooked politics. They took back all the real estate they lost from World War One, and then the last piece was Poland, because Poland didn't exist before the end of World War One. And they took that back using the military. Then they kind of got high and mighty and went to war with the freaking planet, and got run over. And because they didn't understand that they weren't the center of the universe. The Germany had an industrial base, but it wasn't quite as big and as bad as they thought it was. They were mostly an agricultural society. I don't have the actual number here in front of me, but in 1940, in the United States, there was like one car for every 80 people, and in Germany, it was like one car for every 700. They didn't have that many cars. They didn't have that many people that knew how to drive. They didn't have that many people that knew how to work on cars. They didn't have the infrastructure. Now, they built the Autobahns, and they touted the Volkswagen, which came out in the early 30s, as, oh, everybody has this. Reality, there weren't that many of them out there. And the elites, they were a very class system of elites. Had cars. So the run-of-the-mill person didn't have a car. So they go into World War II thinking they're this great mechanized force, and they weren't. At the height of their mechanization, half of their supplies, half of their weapons, half of their stuff was still horse-drawn. So when the United States showed up over there, invaded, their POWs are looking around going, they literally asked, "Where's your horses?" No, we don't have horses. We don't have donkey cars. We don't do anything. They didn't understand that a country could be this mechanized. So they took POWs at the beginning, very few, and I think they were scared because in Europe, German POWs were treated like garbage by the Russians, and Russian POWs were treated like garbage by the Germans. The Germans did it because they didn't have the infrastructure, and a lot of the Russian POWs died of neglect because they simply didn't have the capabilities of feeding them properly, or clothing them, housing them properly. The Russians were harsh to the Germans because they were mad, but for the same reasons they neglected them. They worked to death. I mean, it was a whole situation becoming POWs. So when someone gets captured in war, like the first thought that's going through their mind is, how do I get out of here? How do I escape? Well, I was reading some things by Germans that were captured early. Some were air crews that were shot down over Great Britain and Battle of Britain. Some were U-boat sailors that survived. And then the first big run. Hey, how you doing? I see you there. The first big run of prisoners was in North Africa. And they were, the cargo, the Liberty ships were coming to Great Britain and unloading, and then they were going back. CQO, what? I can't read that. I'm sorry, I'm on a really bumpy road here, and I'm bouncing green. And the observations that I read about this, so the observations, what's going on? I am driving eastbound on Interstate 94. I think I'm in Indiana, and it's going to pop up and get me into Michigan. I'm heading towards Toledo right now with a load. Oh, I'm just filming the roads here. Wow, it is way darker outside than it shows on the screen. wow. Anyway, the German POWs had observations, and it was something that, when you see something every day, you don't notice it. How long have I mean, like today? I don't know, 4 hours. Oh, there's another van passing me. See it. Oh, saying there's these vans, these Expediter vans. Right there's another one. They're everywhere on the noticeable. So anyway, if you see something, people stands out, and it's made observations about the United States, about Americans that you wouldn't think about. Oh yeah, they're all over the place, but they're invisible because you just don't notice them. But if you ever see a white van, check out the license plate. It more times than not, it's going to be from out of state because they're expediting. They're not some local outfit. They put German POWs on the Liberty ships going back home, back to the United States, and they thought they were going to be like put in hell ships and treated horribly and blah 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 blah. But what part of the United States? Yeah, this is Indiana. Like I said, at some point I'm going to go into Michigan here. This is I-94. Yeah, it looks like daylight on the screen, but wow, it's pretty dark outside. That's kind of weird. Yeah, I've had a guy on here, Pennsylvania. I drive through there on a regular basis. I'm going to Cleveland. It's my ultimate destination here. Probably at 1 o'clock in the morning, I'll be there. But yeah, I go through Pennsylvania. One of my favorite roads to drive on is 86 through the mountains, especially at night. But like I say, one of the first things I noticed on the ship is they fed them the same food the crew ate, and that was the first stream. Oh, came back. High quality food, and they were like, "This is weird. They're treating us like this." And they had an ice cream maker on board, and ice cream was something you couldn't get in Germany for years during the wartime, and they were caught off guard by that. And they actually treated them pretty good, the Germans. And then they get over to stateside, and they said they're pulling into harbor at night, and they saw a shipyard that had more ships under being loaded and uploaded and downloaded than every shipyard in Germany combined. And they were like, whoa, this is weird. And there was electricity everywhere. And the concept of somebody leaving a light or a fan on in a room that nobody was in was completely foreign to them because electricity was tightly rationed. And they put them on a train, and when you travel around in Europe as a soldier, you get put on a cattle train. It was like a boxcar. Well, they put these POWs in passenger cars with comfortable seats, and they went into the dining car and ate food like a normal person, and they were caught completely off guard by the treatment. And as they were motoring across the United States, they noticed every little farmhouse had electricity. Every town had electricity. Everywhere they looked, people had power. At one point, they stopped at a train station. One of the guards walked out and used money out of his own pocket and bought those little 7 or 8 ounce Coca-Cola bottles. Just handed it to him, and he popped the tops and handed it to him. And he said, nobody living in the USA can remember the first time drinking Coke, but a person who's never heard of Coca-Cola, the first time they got a hit of that sugary, sweet, bubbly drink, they were like looking at each other going, what is this? They were shocked about it. Because again, it's sugar, and the availability of sugar was a thing in Germany they couldn't have. So whereas let's see here, welcome center. I guess we're getting close to the border here. Whereas the Soviets would try to do propaganda to get you to switch sides, switch your thinking. The Germans tried to recruit Russians to go back and fight the war. And when the dust clears, they didn't give propaganda to the Germans. The United States didn't do it. They didn't do any kind of propaganda. They just let them watch. They just let them see the system that was in effect over here. And they were taken off guard because how can you go to war against a country that has all this abundance of equipment and abundance of food. And they watched farmers bury fruit. They couldn't get fruit in Germany during the war. He goes, but they've watched farmers dig holes and bury fruit in the ground to keep the prices up. And these Germans were ripping their hair out, going, "Can we ship that home? What are you doing?" And they were caught off guard about how everything was done over here, and they got to see that they had been living under a system that was just lying to them. They were told Americans were stupid, they were mongrels, that nobody got along, our society, our culture was failing. We're all going down the toilet, we couldn't get along. And then they see with their own eyes what's going on. Everybody, I was talking about this the other day. They would take POWs, Michigan Welcome Center. It's up here somewhere. And nope, that's not. They would farm out POWs to work on farms, literally, because the sons were off to war. And he said they treated them perfect. They treated them really nice. One guy farmer came out, handed a 22 rifle to one of the POWs and told him where the ditch where all the rabbits were to get some rabbits for the stew pot. Gave him a gun to go hunt. Another one had a horse, and he told the soldier to ride into town and pick up his daughter from school, give her a ride back. I mean, they treated them like, they're cordial to them. They were friendly towards them. The Germans were just caught off guard by their treatment. But they got to see what's really going on over here. When these people got home after the war, they got to say, hey, they got a much better system going on over here than we ever had going on under this last setup. And I got a kick out of reading. It was a very detailed book, but the observations they were making were like, yeah, it's like, well, what are the Germans like? Well, back then they were pretty rigid in their thought process. They were told that they had the best culture and the most enlightenment. They really didn't. You're talking about today. I don't know. Last time I was playing with the Germans was back in '87. They have no sense of humor. I can tell you that. Germans are not ha-ha funny people. They're industrious and they work hard. One of the many things that hurt them during World War II is they were a little overzealous to make everything perfect. And in wartime, they made their weapons a little too perfect, and too perfect gets dirty and jams and stops working. So you got to make stuff a little quicker, a little cheaper, a little less precise, because it's going to get chewed up. But I don't know what's going on in Germany these days. I haven't been over there since the '80s, and I got to go play with the German army. This has come back, and I enjoyed that. There was yeah, they're perfectly nice. They're just not funny, haha people. That's not their culture. To coming back over. All right, hold on. So we got Pennsylvania. What else do we have on here tonight? Or what part of the world? I had a guy here from Ethiopia the other day. It's kind of cool. I had a young guy on here from India. It's early. Oh, that's what we should be a joke. What will they? Yeah, their sense of humor is just weird. I don't know. I haven't been around the Germans, but they're not laugh out loud funny people. That's just not how they do things. So German comedians are kind of rare. It's like British humor. Their humor is a little bit dry. It's a little more deadpan than American humor. It's just a cultural thing. So they're looking. So anyway, like I said, back to the work thing. Yeah, it's still. I'm looking at the screen. I'm telling you, it looks like it's nice outside. In private, pretty much all cultures, Joshua, those are the folks as well. I don't know. I haven't talked. Like I said, I sit in here by myself all day, so I don't talk to a lot of people unless they're typing on the screen. It's just kind of cool. Anyway, that getting through Chicago, the traffic is heavy, and it's not like rush hour. It's always heavy going through there. This is the way I like to drive. And Highway 86 in Pennsylvania and in through to New York is one of my favorite roads because there's nothing out there, and I'm not usually by myself, and I can flip on my high beams, and I've got these big old bucket headlights in this van, and I enjoy that driving at night. Are we allowed to have pets? And I don't know who we are, but yeah, they have pets in Germany. That's everywhere. Why would they not have pets? I said my last time I set foot in Germany was in 1987, and I was playing Army when the East-West German border was going on. I don't understand your question. I don't know what the rules are about pets in Germany. But I tell you, the wife and I have two cats. Neither one we went out and got. They came to our house. We have Lucy, which is a black cat. Lucy walked in the back door, came in, surveyed the situation, and announced that I live here now. Feed me. Your accommodations are adequate. And about a year and a half ago, another cat walked in the back door and asked Lucy, "How is it here?" So it's pretty cool. And that cat said, "Okay, I live here too." So now we have a cat named Lucy and a cat named Two. And the wife just bought a catio, which is like an outdoor play area cage, and you put like a little mini doggy door, and the cats can go outside whenever they want and come back in. It's kind of a cool system. She just got it. She's in the process of putting the door in. Yeah, like I said, dogs have owners, cats have staff, and we're the cat's staff. We work for them. Yeah, but we didn't go out and get the animals. They came and got us, which is kind of interesting. The first cat took 2 weeks to be convinced, kind of like we're feeding it, and it's kind of like leery of us. The second cat, we fed it one time, and it's like, "Oh, cool. You got groceries. I'll come in here." So I was like, I don't know. It was like a quick transition. And now they're totally relaxed around us. I remember when Lucy did that. The cat would be in the yard, skittish, and then that I was sitting out there in the dark talking on the phone. Well, that's a problem, by the way. If you ever get a black cat, you get up in the middle of the night to go pee, you're going to kick the cat because you can't see it. Black cats are absolutely invisible. Yeah, you know what happens. Once you get one, the rest of them just show up. They all hang around together. What part of Pennsylvania, by the way? Yeah, if anybody has a topic, I'm always open to any topic except for mileage. Get 23.4 miles per gallon here out of my big scary van. Man, that was the radio going off. When you're out here driving, doing this kind of a job, or sitting here by yourself, and your brain can wander. You start going down rabbit holes. I found myself going down a rabbit hole, and I don't even have you ever been to a beach before? If you're a beach, well, I'm 57 years old. I've been to a lot of beaches. I've been to the beach in Hawaii and California, the Texas coast, Florida. I even walked onto a beach in Maine. I wouldn't get in the water. A week ago, I was at the beach at Lake Erie in New York. Yeah, I've been to beaches all over the place. Anyway, you're sitting in this vehicle. Whoa, drive a straight line, dude. Driving like this, your brain just kind of drifts around and wanders. Well, you're in Pennsylvania. You can go to Lake Erie, depending on where you are. It's not a sandy beach; it's a rocky beach, but it's freshwater. I was just there, like I said, I don't know, 2 weeks ago. So, like I said, you're driving, your brain wanders. Now, does anybody remember the movie Dirty Dancing? There were two comments made in that movie. Hey, Leah Liz. So, during the course of the movie, the owner of the inn, this is the Dirty Dancing, he said that kids don't want to come here anymore. They want to fly to Europe. And that wasn't terribly long. The movie was based in 19. Never watched it. It's worth seeing. I think it's an interesting movie. I look at it as a historical perspective. And that movie came out in 1987. I was 19. And it was set in 1963. And as a 19-year-old in 1987, 1963 was, yeah, that was like, might as well have been during the Revolutionary War because it was like 24 years ago. Well, now 24 years ago was 2001, which is like no big deal. But it was the changing of an era is what they were talking about because the owner of the inn said that kids don't want to come here anymore. And another character in the movie said, this place is a dinosaur. And I was kind of wondering about that. So I'm 12. Maybe how old were you had to be to watch it? You can watch it right now. It's not a dirty movie. It's just it's kind of a you got to watch it. It's good enough for a 12-year-old to watch, but it's got some historical things going on. If you look at the bigger picture, what they were showing was an area in New York in the Catskills that somebody called the Borscht Belt or the Yiddish Alps, and apparently up to that time, I didn't know this. It's not R-rated. I don't think so. Is it? Yeah, it's not. Yeah, it's a fun movie to watch. And the Borscht Belt was an area just outside of New York City. I don't know where it's an older movie. You could probably find it on YouTube if you looked around for it. But the Borscht Belt was where Jewish people traveled because I didn't know this, but there was heavy anti-Jewish sentiment in the country that they would literally stop people from traveling certain places. And I didn't know that was going on. I thought those idiots got that out of their system and they got the rear end handed to them in World War II, but apparently it's still going on. So the Jewish community went up into there and traveled to these big resorts where they would stay there and they would have all kinds of entertainment, formal meals and whatnot. I was like, whoa. And there were bungalows, and I watched a documentary about the bungalows that Jewish people set it up where they had little communities of little houses and they would travel up and they would hang out together. And some of them had rules like you couldn't join it. You couldn't join this one if you weren't Jewish, but you couldn't join that one unless you survived the Holocaust. It was really weird. But as time went on, those people kind of died off. Those little communities went away. But the Borscht Belt, the Yiddish Alps, started going downhill. Its heyday was in the 1950s, and this movie was based in 1963, right when it started to go downhill. And going forward from there, the popularity of that place went downhill. And starting into the 70s, they started closing. The crowds just went other places. Air travel got cheaper. There were some laws passed in 1964 that made it illegal to you could they were somehow legally stopping Jewish people, which I don't get what the big beef is about Jewish people. They're just people as far as I'm concerned. Yeah, I don't think it's going to be on Netflix. It's too old of a movie. But as time went on, those resorts started to go out of business. And it was a few here and a few there. I don't even know if there's any of them left at this point because that's just not where people vacation anymore. But I was interested in that area, how that happened. And the film location where they shot that movie, there was a lake right there. Well, you go there today, the lake is gone. The water line has receded so far, it's not even there anymore. The area has gone through all these changes. But yeah, it's kind of a fun movie to watch. But I don't even know why. I don't even know why that came into my mind, but that just popped into my head. I guess you could say it's a chick flick for the most part, but it is kind of fun. It's kind of fun to watch. And again, I'm looking at it from a historical perspective. You know, the cars they show, the clothes, this the attitudes people had. And what they were doing was a little racy for the area, for the era, but it's again, it's not. There's no nudity or anything. It's just a wow, smelling smoke, like somebody's smoking a cigar in here. Well, I'm sorry. Oh, you're fine. Do your thing. I'll be on here for a while. This this helps me stay awake on these long drives. That's why I like coming on here. And some people like to see this at night. All right, take care. Yeah, I've had. I think the most successful stream I ever had was I started at like 11:30 at night, and a bunch of people piled on. It was a little surprising, but they were from other side of the world. I had a guy from Berlin, another person from New Zealand, one guy from Great Britain. And one of the coolest places I ever had somebody come in here for, and you'd have to look on the map to see this. It is called Alert, Alert, Alaska, and that's up on the Alert Canada, and that's way up on the northern coast of Canada, above Greenland. I've not been on. Well, I don't want to. Well, I've been on. I'm not, okay, technically speaking, I'm not a truck driver. I'm an expediter. That means I'm doing what a truck driver does. I'm just doing it in a van. So I'm kind of a trucker, kind of not. It's just I don't have to operate under all the rules these guys have to follow. So this is like poor man's truck driving. But again, I do the same job. I'm delivering cargo. I'm just delivering smaller quantities. And there's okay, looky there, another white van, Georgia license plates. See, we're everywhere. That's another expediter doing the same job. I spent a couple of days sitting waiting on a load in Morgantown, West Virginia, and sat next to another guy doing the same job and was hanging out with him. And I got him to start a YouTube channel. And if you want to look him up, it's called Expedited Journey. If you want to get in on the ground level with him, and you take a look how he set his van up. His is done professionally. Yeah, I am sitting low. I'm higher up than a car, but I'm not that low down. But Expedited Journey is the guy. His name is Jeff, and he's very much into what you and I would call frisbee golf. They call it disc golf, and he makes videos about playing that. It's a sport where you throw different kinds of these frisbees or discs, and you do a course. And he's really into it. And he goes on, does it with his daughter. And I mean, whether or not you're into that, it's neither here nor there. The point is, he spends time with his daughter, and they go out, and they get exercise. I think it's kind of cool. But he shoots videos of different courses, but he also talks about this line of work. Yeah, and if you notice, I'm not exactly going fast. I own this is a box van. I own the van. I got a bunk in here, but a lot of the people that do this job are driving somebody else's van. But this is mine. I own it, so I have to pay for the maintenance on it and the fuel. So I set my cruise control on 62, and I stay in the right lane. And I am currently getting 23 and a half miles per gallon. Nope, 62. The sweet spot on this vehicle is 62, and I stay in the right lane and stay out of everybody's way. But I have had people come up behind me and get mad for some reason, even though there's other lanes over here. Yeah, I was taken aback at the mileage this thing gets. And I do my own oil changes. And I do an oil change about once a month. That's 10,000 miles. I bought this van in January. I went operational in March, and I have put exactly 50,000 miles on it since then. Oh, you can't stream and talk on the phone at the same time. I hear you. Oh, okay, cool. Hey, Leah Liz, where are you at? What part of the world you tuning in from out of curiosity? I've had people from all over the planet come on board. I had to get North Carolina. I was just in North Carolina. I did a delivery to Greenboro, Greenberg, Green something. Yeah, I was just up there, and our company has an office in North Carolina. Greenberg, Greenville, Green. It's up on the northern part. I just was just down there. That's cool. I'm out of Texas. Greenboro, that's the one. Yeah, I was down there. That's the first and only time I've ever delivered something where they pulled it off my van and then the forklift set it down and picked up another load, put it on my van and said, take that to Wisconsin. I've never delivered and picked up at the same place before, which is like the ultimate pipe fantasy for people in the cargo industry. Yeah, so I experimented with this van, and 62 is the magic number. So everywhere I go, I'm going 62. And if you're wondering how somebody gets into a job like this, I was a commercial helicopter pilot for 35 years, and my medical disappeared on me last year. So I had to do something else to get to retirement age. So I do this, and it's actually quite relaxing. And I get to talk to people, and I get to meet some pretty fun people on the road. I keep little packs of light bulbs, turn signal bulbs, which I change. And I've got a little tool bag with just enough equipment to do my own oil changes. I use the Fetch app to make little chump change on the side. And when I cash out my Fetch app, I transfer that money to Amazon and I buy my oil on Amazon. So basically, I get my oil changes for free by using reward money. Used to drive with slip. Hold on. I've noticed you have a radio personality voice. Oh, you want me to talk in radio voice? Well, I don't want to brag, but yes, I'm capable of doing that. As a matter of fact, I used to fly with a guy. His name was Bob Salter, and he was a news anchor in San Antonio for 25 years, and he bobbed his head when he talked. And he used radio voice. And we would get on the radio air to air, and we'd be talking like that at each other, and people would come up on Freak and go, "Will you guys knock it off?" But why? We're using radio voice. Oh, yeah. I mean, normal people are boring. I like weirdos. They're more fun. Got a guy passing here. Hold on. If you want weird, go on my channel and look under a topic called completely random nonsense, and you'll understand how weird I am. I've been playing on YouTube now since 22. This is how I entertain myself. I got a truck coming up behind me. He's in both lanes. Let me tell you how bad it gets by being silly. 25 years and about 60 pounds ago, I used to work at a restaurant, a theme restaurant. Three Legs In, yes. On YouTube, yeah. If you click, I don't know how this works, but yeah, Three Legs In. There's a picture, a close up of me wearing a helmet, a flying helmet with my face mask down, and I'm smiling. That's my picture. I used to work at a theme restaurant. I had a temporary job at the time. And Mike, everybody that worked there was a character. You had to be some kind of cartoon character. You had to be some kind of. One guy was Forrest Gump. We had a Captain Jack Sparrow. Everybody was a character. I got to be Ace Ventura, and unfortunately, I was really good at it. But I'm way too old for that now. But I used to do that. I was really good at it. I had a lot of fun doing that. Yeah, the categories under in the my playlist, completely random nonsense is just telling jokes, and the one about expediting is more sounds broken. What sounds broken? The feed sounds, but I don't understand what you mean by that. Let's see my distance, 146. Jim Carrey, no. Good call, Your Honor. Yeah, that, wait, hold on a second. Yeah, I was known as that guy for years and years and years. Yeah, that's the one. I played that character when I did the show, when I did the restaurant. It's a lot of fun. It's weird to turn that personality on and leave it on because people treat you funny. But I do it, and occasionally it slips out. But for the most part, I don't really do that anymore. Yeah, he picks up the box. Sounds broken. Good call, Your Honor. Yeah, I did that. That was fun. Some of my earlier videos that pops up, but I haven't done it in a while. Oh, it's Skinny Roads. Skinny Roads. Sorry, I'm looking out the window right now. So I have this van. I have one pallet in here, which is normal. Occasionally I get two. On a cold day, I get three. But right now I'm carrying a single pallet. Some kind of auto parts. I don't know what they are. I know where I'm going. I've been to this place before. It's a Ford plant. And as an expediter, what you're basically doing is they had a shortage or something got broken and they need a part and you bring it. It's somebody when he's carrying, yeah, the UPS box. When that movie, I don't know if you're old enough to remember that, but it came out in '94 and the reviews on the movie were terrible. And it made $100 million in like 4 weeks because it was just a type of humor that no one had ever seen before. And it was just presented in a different format and then they didn't know how to handle it. One of the most satisfying deliveries I ever did with this van was I went to a plant in Indiana and I picked up a gigantic electric motor. It looked ancient. 69. Oh, okay. So, on I have what's called YouTube Studio, and that tells me how many views I have and what part of the world they come from. And one of them tells you the age bracket. Hey, you're back. That's cool. Yeah, it tells you the age bracket, and with God as my witness, the biggest age group I have is 65 plus. I'm 57, so we're right there together. But it's 65 plus is like 45% of my viewing audience, and that makes my job a whole lot easier because you don't have to explain things. You talk to somebody who's 15 about something that happened 10 years ago, and you get a blank stare. I saw a meme where somebody wrote the word in longhand minimum, and it just looks like a scribble of letters. And he goes, how many people could read this word? If you think about it, minimum looks like one big squiggle. What's your favorite? Oh, hold on a second here. I don't want to get whacked by this guy. Hold on. He was coming on kind of hard there. My favorite movie? Uh, this is going to be strange. I am not a big time sci-fi person, but my actual all-around favorite movie of all time was a 1986 film, Aliens with an S. I thought that was the year to me talking. The year they finally got special effects to a science. Because, before that it was rubber monster movies and stuff like that. And Aliens, I thought the storyline was good. Uh, a good storyline, good special effects, good everything. And I really enjoyed that. I was a teenager when it came out. But as I look back, that's probably my favorite all-around movie. I'm sorry, I'm having to look out the window a little bit more here because it's tight roads. I'm not looking at the screen. Hold on here. And I got a lot of headlights around me. Okay, don't hit the hard thing on the right. Don't pass over the right. And turn the radio down. There we go. Oh, you're good. All right. Yeah, I'm having to really watch what I'm doing here. I got a concrete wall. I don't know if you're new on here. Are you familiar? Are either one of you familiar with the Cannonball Run? All right, the Cannonball Run. There was a movie that came out in 1982. It was a comedy movie, but the Cannonball Run is a across the United States. Whoa, turn that down. Is a very illegal cross country road race across the United States that were organized events that happened back in the 1970s as a protest against the 55-mile-an-hour speed limit. And it faded out in 1979 because there were too many people getting involved. Hey, Butters, what's up? And in 2004, it quietly started again. And they don't do big races, they do individual runs. They get someone to certify it. You have witnesses, the front, the back, and you can follow people on glimpse and you have receipts and they certify her. They don't do a bunch of cars, it's just one car driving from lower Manhattan Island to Redondo Beaches in Los Angeles. And I'm driving between these walls right here and I'm having a flashback because in 2020 I did the Cannonball as a solo driver across the United States. And I'm sitting here looking at these walls and it's giving me flashbacks because they did it in Colorado going over the Rockies. You had to run between some concrete walls that were tight. And I had some guy, I went flashing past him and he got offended and he sped up, I guess, thought we were racing, which we weren't. And he went into a turn where there was runoff from snow and the road was wet. And I slowed down to make the turn and he hit the turn going way too fast and spun out right in front of me, spun around in circles. And somehow between the two concrete walls, I got past him. Then he spun back around forward again. Then he decided to stop racing, which we weren't racing. He just decided to be were. And I thought that was kind of stupid. I was just having flashbacks. Bull Run. Well, I'm not familiar with the Bull Run, no. But these two little walls right here, there was no shoulder whatsoever. It was like the white line, maybe an inch. Bull Run. I don't know what Bull Run is. The guys that still do the Cannonball, I think they're backing away from it because there's not a whole lot of room left for record breaking. And they had a run the other day, other year ago. It's called the Musket Ball. And the rules were you could use any car you want, but they would dyno test it. They couldn't have over 100 horsepower. Well, that's kind of the concept of the Cannonball, except the Cannonball is real. It's a real thing. That's a film, I guess. Or I'm not familiar with it. And most people, I mean, when you think about in theory doing Cannonball, people talk about supercars. And the reality is there aren't a whole lot of people that own a supercar. And if you've ever driven one, and I have, well, it's underground. The race is an underground thing. The problem with supercars is they're extremely comfortable for about 10 minutes, and then they're miserable. And a supercar, under normal circumstances, gets atrocious gas mileage. Now you start laying on it hard, and now the gas mileage is going to disappear. And so you have to put in auxiliary fuel, but supercars don't have a trunk. There's nowhere to put the fuel. You know, you didn't hear about it because they don't advertise it. It's an underground thing. It's quiet. And in a supercar, when you're trying to do that kind of racing, yeah, when you're trying to race a car across the United States, you don't want to stand out. If you're driving some kind of supercar, oh, I got another guy doing that. I just have a truck coming up behind me, blowing his horn because I'm not going fast enough in the right lane. Even the guy in the left lane is the problem, not me. Jackwagon. Jeez. Hold on a second. See what this guy's about to pull. I think the road's snowed. Does it split? It doesn't split. I'm backing away from this guy because I don't trust him. Hold on. See what I mean? Look at this dude. Yeah, I'm the same way. When I did the cannonball, I was 50, 51. Yeah, I'm too old, so I agree. And so the question comes up. Hold on a second. Where are you headed to tonight? I'm right now. My next stop is in Toledo, which is where our corporate headquarters is located. I'm dropping off some paperwork, and they have a driver's lounge. It has a shower, which I'm going to jump in, and laundry, and I'm going to do my laundry. And then I have to finish up just this side of Cleveland. I'm going to a Ford plant, and Ford. I'm supposed to be there at like 8 o'clock in the morning, but Ford's open all the time, the plant, so I can deliver whenever. Um, the question of 3 legs in, I've had people ask me, what does that mean? And it was kind of a joke. My wife bought one of those fancy electric cat boxes. Hold on. Where a cat gets inside of it, does its business, and leaves, and then like a minute later, the cat box, the interior of it, turns over slowly, and it like filters the litter and the solids out, and then it goes back and you just add a little more stuff to it, and you can throw the trash out. It's a machine. Well, when she put that in there, the cats were like, walk in. There's where the toilet used to be. What's that? They were very leery of it. And the cats were looking at it. And the one cat got brave and got one paw inside the tub and is looking around all nervous, and then gets the other paw in, and then it kind of gets its body into the tub, half and half, and we're watching it. And then it got the third leg, but the one leg was extended as far as humanly possible, touching the ground. So like way stretched out, like somehow you were safe as long as that leg was right out there. So when I say 3 legs in, it's like you're committed, but not completely committed. You're going to have that one safety thing. It just, I was like, geez, I should have taken a video of that, but I didn't realize I was going to happen. But to see that cat in the cat box minus one leg bent outside was just funny, and that's where I came up with the name. I'm committed, but not completely. Yeah, and I agree about cannonballing and sitting on the ground. I was 50, and when I made my run in March, it was right before the COVID garbage happened. And it was 2 weeks later is when COVID kicked off. They were talking about shut down New York City and all this stuff, and it was kind of a weird time. And ultimately, when I made my run, I used a rental car, and I had the car in my possession for 10 days and put 7,000 miles on it. Houston to New York City to LA back to Houston. It had fun, and everybody's got their. Oh, wow, these roads suck. When people do a cannonball, they set a goal for themselves, and the drive that I took was 2,825 miles, and I told myself, as long as the first number on my time is a 3, I'll be happy. So anything under 40 hours, I'll consider it a successful run. My pipe fantasy time was 34 hours, and I got caught in a snowstorm in Utah. Snowstorm didn't bother me, but all the cars around me going 45 and an 80 all the way across the state did. And I found out the hard way my rental car had a governor and it wouldn't go over 80 miles, 115 miles an hour. So I had to deal with that. Oh, that's loud. Hold on, driving. And with all the things that went wrong on my run, my overall time was from start to finish was 34 hours and 4 minutes, which turned out to be 29 minutes faster than the word for a solo driver. And I held on to that for about 4 years, and then some other guy beat it in a BMW. And I'm thinking at this point we're running out of we're running out of time on the clock to make it any faster than people have for records these days. Hold on here. Trying to stay between these lines, but there's the stuff in the road where they dent the road so your car makes a racket if you're driving out of your lane. And because they've got all the traffic shoved off here on the shoulder, I'm hitting it on a regular basis and it's rattling my teeth. I don't recall this road being this bad. Jeez. Get back to my 62. Right there. 23 and a half miles per gallon. Yes, you can call me three legs in. I like that. Okay, now it's showing darkness on the screen. There we go. Oh, you know those little attachments you put on your bumper that whistles? Yeah, for deer, yeah, those don't work. Don't waste your time. I put a set of those on here, and I see on the glow of the headlights on the side of the road, deer sitting there eating lunch, and you go by, and they don't even pay the slightest bit of attention. So right now it's Toledo about midnight, which I'm changing time zones, so I'm gonna have to start over again. Jumping in the shower, doing laundry, and then I'm gonna finish my run to just west of Toledo, correction, just west of Cleveland to a Ford plant. I'm gonna drive along the lake, and then I'm gonna go do a pilot Flying J, which is right there, and I'll be going to sleep. And I've already told HQ and our office in the Carolinas I need to get back to Texas. I got to go check on the wife. Well, I got a little work done on the van, but it's just getting a run to Texas. First things first. There's a lot of cargo going to Laredo, stuff that's going across the border. It's just being in the right place when that pops up. Actually, it'd be awesome if I got to run to Houston, which is where I live. 23. Yeah. I was trying to figure out how to play music on my phone because I've got satellite radio and and live stream at the same time, and my phone won't do it. There's got to be a way, but my phone simply won't do it. I'm a big fan of 1940s big band music, and I like 80s rock, and that's about it. Anybody have a question? And or where's everybody from? I always ask that question. I like to know where people are tuning in from. I'm doing 62 right now, my normal speed. Everybody, this speed limit is 7. That's why it's easy to pass me. This seems to be an excessive amount of traffic out here for this time of night. That it's showing. Yeah, it's 8:30. Come about 10 o'clock, the roads empty out traditionally. Flashing lights at me for it, dude. Oh, I got someone behind me flashing lights at me. Just trying to figure out why. Hopefully he's getting off back there. And yeah, he just back there trying to fit. Okay. That in front of us is a tanker truck, a fuel tanker. They sometimes put that big red light on there for fun. That is actually a tanker for Pilot, which is where I get gas. Ooh. Ooh. Anybody got a question or a comment or a topic? If you're interested in expediting, which is what I'm doing, again, I call this poor man truck driving. And the advantage of this is you can jump into this at any time and you can go into it really, really cheap. You don't have to have a CDL. You don't have to follow CDL rules, which I think truckers are allowed to drive 11 hours a day or something, which you don't have to deal with that. You don't deal with DOT. You don't go through way stations. I'm in a van. I can always find a place to park versus trucks. It's a little more of a challenge. And if you want to try expediting, contact any big company that does expediting. The company does not own vans. Individuals own these. And I met one guy who owned 5 of them. And they hire drivers. And you basically make a deal with the owner of the van and you drive for him. So it doesn't cost you anything to start this line of work. To get in here and stick your finger in your toe in the pool if you want to try it. I personally own my own van, but I operate under the authority of the company I'm driving for. And the advantage of that is they do the dispatching. They're the ones that are constantly looking for loads while I'm driving. They're searching the load boards, and they're also connected to some big companies, so they don't have to search for loads. They just automatically get them, and they just assign them to based on the order when you got there. So because they're big enough, they can just get loads, and they also pay my loaded insurance because there's 2 separate insurance policies. There's 2 separate insurance policies on this vehicle, one loaded, one empty, which sucks. So I play the empty insurance, and they play the loaded, which is pretty high. But they take a small percentage of the load, which is fine because they're doing the work to find the load, which I don't have to worry about that. I just have to drive. But there are people that come out here and do this all on their own, where they drive under their own authority and find their own loads and pay all their insurances, which if you can do that, all the power to you. But it seems like you'd be busy. Oh, oh, oh. Yeah, there's a lot of traffic out here tonight. This is weird. I kind of figured I was going to be up here on my own. That did not work out. Oof. Uh, the other advantage of this job is I have a limited time to talk on the phone. And I talk to my wife a lot, talk to my mother a lot. It's just you get a lot of free time. Some people enjoy the silence and the solitude. Some people don't handle it well. Or cool with this. I flew for years. I'm used to being in an aircraft by myself and flying around and doing my job. So this is just an offshoot of it that I think is a little bit safer. You just gotta watch out for stupid people. because there's plenty of them out here. And one thing you notice, because I sit up a little higher than a person in a car, is if you look out your windows, about 80% of the people driving down the road are playing with their phones. It's disheartening how many people, including truck drivers, are looking down, playing on the phone. You'll notice this phone hasn't moved from this mount because I don't take it off the mount. Back in the day, drunk driving was the problem. People, for the most part, cleaned up their act, and now everybody's playing on their phone. It's probably worse than it was back, let's say, in the 80s. You see that airline pilot? They stopped for drunk driving and drunk driving. Being drunk trying to go get on the plane, drunk. Well, as a commercial pilot, I can tell you this: you're better off getting murdering somebody than having a DWI on your record as a commercial pilot. And this guy doubled down by trying to fly the plane drunk, not get caught in his car. So I can assure you, his medical is yanked, and he will never get it back. His license is probably in jeopardy, but I promise you, he won't get his medical back, so he won't be flying anymore. That's if you're caught drunk driving in a car. He was trying to get on the plane to fly. All right, I'm going to cut this one off here. It's been a little over an hour. Catch you guys later.